in his health
What
class,
grade?
ninth grade.
Ninth grade.
He says, "Oh my God, Mom, you should have seen all the kids in health class." All of a sudden, they're all like, "What? We shouldn't be eating this. We shouldn't be eating that. We shouldn't be." Nobody
Nothing.
knows. By the time you're in ninth grade, you're 14, 15 years old, you're already ruined.
Your food pyramid is upside down already.
If at home, you haven't been taught the proper
Right.
diet or way of living. And he says to me, I'm sitting there laughing because these kids, the girls that are teenagers, are going, wait, so I shouldn't be drinking Coke every day
Yeah.
with every meal?
SAPIEN. SAPIEN living.
What is the Sapien lifestyle?
Mind, body, and spirit.
All right, we're back. We're back with Sapien episode number 4. Got Dr. Gary on the line. We're doing our casual live intros. What's up?
Excited to share this excellent episode with everyone and excited to be here with you, Brian. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I just spent the day at the clinic. I saw some patients at Evolve. We shot this at Evolve. It was actually a couple months ago. In Sara's Kitchen. She's an amazing cooking show on Instagram and elsewhere on YouTube. And what is she? She kind of works with the Kardashians. She's like a celebrity chef.
Yeah, kind of. I met Sara. She was actually a patient of mine, and we talked a lot about nutrition and kind of health education. Got really excited to work with her. She's got some fame. She works with the Kardashians as one of their chefs, and also it looks like she was the winner of Hell's Kitchen. So she's, she's got a lot of people looking at her and watching her in Sara's Kitchen Instagram, where she does a lot of live videos, which honestly I'm a huge fan of. I love watching her cook. And so, we decided to talk about everything from cooking to, educating our youth about healthy eating. I know we got into the importance of intermittent fasting and a bunch of other exciting Sapien diet related topics.
Yeah, I liked her. She comes at it from just like a very intuitive approach. It's like, I'm going to eat when I'm hungry and I'm not going to eat when I'm not. And there's a difference between being hunger, like actual hunger, and just wanting to eat or being bored or something. That was cool. And yeah, a lot of like practical knowledge and family stuff and cooking stuff and ancestry. Like we all come from different backgrounds and we talked about how we were raised. So it was really cool. Yaniv was in this one. I kind of bounced in and out. You were there for most of it.
I just think it's so cool to hear a lot of this nutrition perspective from someone who's a chef, who's, cooking food every day. And I think it's always eye-opening, and I always learn something about food and sort of different perspectives on eating when I'm talking to chefs that are thoughtful about what they're doing. And I think Sarah's definitely one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we should just make a few announcements. We're doing the Sapien program now. We actually are launching finally. We've been working with a lot of people casually, but we're going to be more open to the public. EvolveHealthcare.com. We're going to have some consults open with either Gary or I. We have the weight loss clinic with, you can actually use insurance and come to us with Medicare or what is it? The PPO.
It's basically insurers that I'm covered with. A lot of people would be surprised to know that recently they've added sort of reimbursement for counseling for folks that is BMI is greater than 30. So it's really kind of thought of as an obesity clinic, and kind of opening our doors to everyone. I've been doing this for the last few years with my patients, and Brian's been helping, and we sort of want to let everyone know that what we're up to. If you're in different parts of the country, we're available through different telemedicine clients. And we're going to have most of the information up here on sapien.org/programs.
Yep. Programs with the S. And then the last program is just if you don't have, if insurance doesn't cover it, you want the full package, you can do the whole program, Sapien program, with all the extra content, extra contact, get my texting, number, and we can just do consultations each week. So that's new, that's happening. And then, Nose to Tails going strong. Got tons of orders recently because I did $10 off in the newsletter and it kind of overwhelmed us. And
we're making some big progress with Food Lies, which I am excited to hear. I know you guys, I overheard an update. We'll keep the details private, but we're getting some really exciting stuff happening here. So
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Really excited about that. And PQN's coming back soon. Took a little break there. Got some good episodes. I'm recording tomorrow with some great people that I won't name. And let's do it.
Let's be more ambiguous about our plans and share our new podcast. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Well, let's get this going.
Let's
Why
go.
don't we just start?
Let's just dive in.
We got Sara here from In Sara's Kitchen.
Hi.
She was on Hell's Kitchen.
Yes.
She was the chef for the Kardashians.
Yes, I cook with them.
Cook with them. And you have your own show on YouTube. And what else?
I have my own live cooking shows on Instagram at Sara's Kitchen, in Sara's Kitchen, and the same with YouTube is the same thing. I just video it and put it on YouTube because I get such positive feedback from the Instagram that they want to keep going back and seeing the videos.
Yeah.
So you can still.
And so I just put it on YouTube.
Smart. Yeah,
That's
it's
great.
a nice archive.
So you're trying to
Yeah.
get people cooking, and I like this message: getting real food, getting people to eat real food, make it from scratch. And I think we're gonna just dive into a lot of stuff today about that.
Yeah, exciting.
I love picking up right where we just were touching on the authenticity of it
Yeah.
all, right? So
Yeah.
there's coming from Hell's Kitchen and other big cooking shows, which exist obviously still on Food Network and otherwise. It's like, are you seeing a different kind of audience, or is it just people like yourself that are looking for tips in the kitchen? Like, who's your general audience member?
My highest number age group is 17 to 27, which surprises me.
Wow. Okay.
That's the biggest following I have.
Pretty young.
Very young. I have younger too, young girls, 13-year-olds that DM me and they're, oh my God, I cook with my mom and I do this. But I think what people gravitate to mostly when I'm doing these shows is I kind of make it okay for everyone that's in the kitchen to say, listen, if you don't have broccoli or if you don't like broccoli, don't use it. Don't stay within my rules. There's
Don't
no
force it.
rules. Right.
Right.
If your kids don't like tomato, don't use tomato.
Sure.
Why don't we use X, Y, and Z? Because I have 3 kids, because every single one of them eat differently. So one day I made an omelet and literally it was 3 different omelets within one pan based on what they like. Because
Well, that's very nice of you.
But who has time to feed 3 different omelets? You know what I mean?
Well,
So, but if you want them to eat healthy and encourage them to eat at home, then if you feed them the food they like, they would rather eat at home
Yeah.
when you cook.
absolutely.
I think you can get better food at home. I'm like, why do I even need to go out?
Well, that's what happens with my teenagers. You know, they're so used to it that if there's, say, a birthday and I say, where do you guys want to go? Do you want to go to Mastro's and have steak? And literally my 16 and 15-year-old will go, no, you make steak for us. Why? We prefer your steak.
Wow, that's rare
So-
though. I feel like the average kid will opt to going out just for the reason of going out. You obviously have a different standard of cooking.
Well, yeah, because I don't just throw
Yeah.
chicken tenders in front of them.
Exactly.
You know? I don't buy back chicken tenders.
So I'm curious, did you grow up like this yourself?
Yeah.
And so your household also had a high standard of cooking?
Oh God. Yeah.
What did you grow up on? Eating?
Everything. So I'm very multicultural, and I'm used to eating everything, preparing everything at home. You know, Friday nights the family were together eating, cooking.
Right.
Day and night I was at home. Parents were always in the kitchen. My siblings were always in the kitchen, and it was just a way of life.
But culturally, what was the
So I'm Persian, so culture, but I grew up here.
Right.
So we always had, that's why I do everything. We had Italian night.
Yeah, of course.
You know, we had Chinese food.
Oh, I love
Back
that,
then
yeah.
we would order Chinese food, you know.
Right.
But now I'm diving into that where I make it at home.
Yeah.
And that's how Instagram kind of got developed.
And are your recipes coming organically, like just out of yourself, or are
Out
you
of
looking
myself.
stuff up online, mixing, experimenting?
You know, watching YouTube, not so much YouTube, watching the TV shows that I grew up on, and then getting into Instagram and following these recipes, you get inspired. And you go, they did that with the cauliflower. Well, my kids don't like cauliflower, but why don't I try it with broccoli?
Right.
And I'll substitute X, Y, and Z with A, B, and C. And just really being freely in the kitchen and experimenting with the food you like, you can make magic.
I love that.
That's my motto. And that's the following that I'm getting is people going, oh my God, we never thought to do that.
Yeah.
And thank you for giving us that freedom where we can experiment.
Well, great job doing that, opening up the doors and making it a little bit more like accessible for a younger generation. So just to contextualize things too, we're here at Evolve Healthcare at Dr. Gary Shlifer's clinic, and so I want to sort of bridge the conversation to health, right? So we know that the food and nutrition is at the base of our health,
right?
But what do you think in terms of both being a mom and a chef is important knowledge-wise? In the medical field, like, are you doing a ketogenic? Are you doing are you looking at any sort of metabolic therapies within your food? Absolutely.
I was telling Gary, I think it was last year, my husband was going through stomach pains, and everybody got nervous. You never know now. So he went through bunch of testing and everything came out clear, and the doctor said, here's some books I suggest you read just to get a healthier gut. And that's what started. And what happens is I feel like, and I say this on Instagram all the time, every decade my diet changes based on what my body is going through.
Right.
So now in our late 40s, this gut healing thing where you're bloated and what should I cut out and when should I eat this? What time should I stop eating that?
Sure.
All of that. And that was the conversation I was having with Gary. Lemon, salt, sodium.
Absolutely.
And I was like, oh my God, I've been doing this not knowing, all the underlying. Right?
Yeah.
Well, nutrient density, which is Brian's
That's
forte.
all I talk about. Yeah, I love nutrient densities, but there's so many foods that people don't know what they are. It's just like, oh, this food is this food. It's like, oh, they're all about the same. Or I just heard all vegetables are awesome. Like, well, maybe not. Maybe some vegetables have a lot of bad things in them. Maybe they do bad things to people with autoimmune diseases. Maybe some vegetables have a ton of sugar and not a lot of nutrients in them, like some fruits. So I think it's really important to look at those things. And, actually, I want to bring Dr. Gary in to talk about more of the health side. And I'll leave you guys with that nutrient density little preamble.
Nice. Thank you, Brian. I love it. And Brian actually just posted, I think yesterday, on Foodwise Instagram, these are my supplements. And I loved that post because it was literally just, anchovy.
Food,
it was all... nutrient dense foods are the supplements. Like maybe you don't actually need true supplementation if you could get it within your food.
Exactly.
Isn't that the goal anyway?
Jumping in, something you said, which I think we connect with, and Yaniv too, with his Israeli background, is, a lot of, you were saying like you are naturally doing a lot of this healthy stuff that we're trying to convince people to do.
Right.
I think because of your background, like at least for me, my Russian background, a lot of the foods I grew up eating for breakfast turn out to be the most nutrient dense foods, the healthiest foods. I grew up not being told to eat every 2 hours, every 3 hours. It was a complete, and then so as growing up in America, I was like, I'm so confused. Like, did I grow up wrong? And so I think when you mentioned that your back, I didn't know you were Persian background, but a lot of, older cultures, even older American culture has all these ideas ingrained. And how did we lose it so quickly, right? Like,
that makes a lot of sense because when I visit my family in Israel, they are actually eating high fat, low carb without even knowing it. They're not eating the rice, right? And obviously you walk around and you still have your pita and falafel and you have your carb heavy meals, but what you're making at home is naturally the whole foods. And the intermittent fasting, I didn't even realize, but that was sort of naturally happening with my family there too.
Exactly.
They just kind of skipped the breakfast. What are you doing in terms of timed windowed eating or any of that?
So it's so interesting because I have now almost a 17-year-old. So since my first, forever, not since then, but forever, I don't eat breakfast. And when I got pregnant, I was like telling my doctor with my first pregnancy, I wanted to eat everything on the face of the planet because I was just like, I could eat whatever I want, but I don't crave breakfast. And my doctor said to me, I want you to continue exactly. There is no such thing that you need to eat breakfast.
Awesome.
And I was like, oh my God, because I move around and everyone's like, where's your breakfast? You're pregnant. Do I have to eat for two? And he goes, no. And he always would say, make a fist. That's how much food you need. And you don't need to double eat for your baby to grow.
Right.
It's a good doctor. I love it.
Now I tell my daughter that, who's 10. She comes down, I'm having my water and lemon in the morning.
Sure.
I go from water, lemon to my tea and straight to my coffee, and it pushes back to 3:00. And this happened really last year when the stomach thing happened, and we were reading and we were like, wait, oranges are bad for your tummy? What are you talking about? Because my favorite thing was go in the backyard, pick a fresh orange, pick a fresh grapefruit, literally, because it's fresh. Let's chop it up and eat it. But that was disturbing our tummy.
It's messing it up. Yeah.
So I don't eat breakfast. And now everyone's like, you don't need to eat breakfast. And I'm going, I've been telling you guys this.
Yeah.
I think that's like the first conversation we had, and I realized how you're instinctively picking up on all this stuff.
Yeah. Just eating healthy.
Feels right.
How much of a challenge? So one of the things that, one of the major goals of this podcast and our company is to really spread these messages to more people than just the nutrition buffs that follow Brian on his podcast and all that. And so that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to have you on, because I think one of the best ways to educate the general public is to start with the moms.
Right. Of course.
And the kids. The moms and the kids, right?
Yeah.
They're the ones shopping mostly, cooking mostly, dictating.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so I wonder, how much responsibility do you, now that you have a following, people are messaging you, they're looking towards you. You mentioned a lot of young girls, which we know have a lot of misconceptions about food in America. Do you feel a sense of responsibility at being an influencer, being someone in the public eye?
Absolutely. And I tell them, I share a lot of times, I say, I'm fasting. I'm, oh my God, you're making all this food. Do you eat it? You're so slim. And I eat everything I make. Right. I always say, 10,000 steps a day, portion control, eating the right timing, eating everything right. But I believe that it's something you do from home and your kids learn. And I see that because I see my boys now. My 17-year-old says, I don't want to eat dairy because I notice my skin will break out. And why am I eating animal fat? Not animal fat, but animal dairy.
Yeah, well, he's listening to his body.
Right.
He might have lactose intolerance or whatever it is.
And I bring that in, it's like, okay, we have almond milk. Why don't you try it? Are you breaking out? No, I'm not anymore. Okay, great. So that works for you. Yeah. Nicholas, on the other hand, can. So he has it. Yeah. You have options, and you tell them everyone's different.
No one size fits all.
No, not at all.
That's one of the other things that we really try to echo constantly, is that while we have what we call the SAPIEN diet, it's just it's like a rubric. It's a framework. Right. Everyone's different. For sure, not everyone's supposed to eat carbs and processed shit. Right. Well, I'm saying no one should eat that, but some people can tolerate dairy.
But even if you do, you do. You don't have to eat the entire pot. The other thing I'm trying to teach my kids, and when I do this at home, is stay away. So I'm a cancer survivor. And I don't really go into that when I'm doing my shows because I don't want to make it so heavy.
Yeah. Right.
But
that's a big thing, by the way.
It is a big thing.
Did you, just curious, not to jump the
gun,
gun, but,
go ahead.
But was food a big part of the healing process?
The food that's what I changed. Now I believe it was environmental, and it was based on the food that I was consuming. This is when I was living on my own in New York. I didn't have time. So it was a lot of canned stuff, can of beans, can of this, open it up. I'd get home 2:00 in the morning, after editing. Yeah. And I'd sit, I was hungry. It was a lot of carbs that I ate. Right. So white sugar, canned products. Yeah. I know it was a lot of nitrate and processed foods.
Yeah.
So I say that to my kids all the time. packaged products, don't eat. You know, if you have to, then check into the nitrate.
Stick to the perimeter.
There's so many subtleties, right?
So many subtleties.
So like you make the point about canned food, and I actually, when I'm counseling, right, because a lot of people are just horrified by canned food or packaged food. But if you know what to look for, but it requires investment. People need to invest in their food system, right?
Well, it's your body. You have to invest. What else are you going to invest in? You know? I mean, they tell me, how much money are you spending on groceries? And I'm thinking, well, you know, eat less, but eat better.
Right.
And food culture is so important, right? Like we were talking about our ancestral or our familial food culture, but even like today, every day, like food brings us together. I'm sure...
Socially.
Or like the kitchen in my house is the center of our home.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Everyone's there.
But
they're so... Nowadays, everyone it's looking for pleasure from the food.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I'm trying to educate that it's not just pleasure, it's life. Right. It's sustenance. It's nourishment. Right. You don't just feel good because it tastes sweet. You feel good because you got protein and energy and fat and micronutrients. And I'm trying to educate people like, this is your medicine. Mm-hmm. This is your cure for depression. This is how to get out there and run and feel good. And it's so hard to get people to change their food culture because they're married to they're very married to the pleasure that is derived from a lot of these processed foods. They really hit that pleasure center. And I'm trying to re-educate, like, there's other powerful benefits to food other than the pleasure. Like, there's so much more. And I feel like I don't know a food show that's an American food show that talks about that.
Not at all.
Like, I loved Good Eats.
Right.
Yeah.
Good
Let's
Eats.
make one.
I loved Good Eats because he taught me, Alton Brown taught me so much.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Not just about cooking, but science, right? Like what fire does, what smoking does, how to
acid,
how to use fat to cook something. Stuff, the chef stuff. And so much of that is married to healthy eating too.
Absolutely.
But no one's making those connections. Like, how come? I don't know. I'm just blown away that no one is educating people how to eat healthy. They just say the same stuff.
Well, Pete Evans did a good job.
What was that?
Is it Pete Evans? Yeah, from Magic Pill, is a chef.
Right.
And
have you heard of him?
Pete Evans. Yeah,
he was Australia.
Yeah, this is non-American.
That's right. He's not American. You're absolutely right. But an Australian chef, author, filmmaker, made this documentary called Magic Pill. Really deep dived into healthy cooking, and spread the message, at least on Netflix. But you're right. In America, we're a little bit confined. We're like restricted, and we always circle back to this topic. But for some reason, it's so personal. Whenever you start talking about what you're eating versus another person eating, it becomes a very sensitive topic.
Well, you know what else I notice a lot is don't trust a skinny chef. I get that a lot.
Really?
I get that a lot.
That's hilarious.
I've never heard that before.
They've said it to me when I'm live.
What? What, chat? You mean your chat room? Or
when I'm doing a live cooking show, they'll come and chat with me, and they're like, well, I don't trust you. You're too skinny.
I don't know. That kind of sounds backwards.
It's like skinny shaming.
Because here's what they think, that I'm just putting on a show, and I don't know because I don't eat it all.
Oh, that's silly. Well, it's like saying, first of all, would you trust an overweight doctor?
No.
Great
absolutely not.
All right, so
it's
silly
the culture
to think.
we live in, because what I'm trying to say is, when I come out and say I'm fasting and I don't eat till 2:30, 3 o'clock, and I'm fine. I'm not sitting in front of the TV. I'm showing this on Instagram. I just did 10,000 steps with my 2 poor dogs that are like, what are we doing this for? And I am cooking for you guys. And now I got to go pick up the kids. And now it's 3 o'clock. And finally, I'm going to not even eat, really nibble on here and there and get some nuts and some fruit and some vegetables. And then tonight I'm going to enjoy my meal. But what I get a lot is, don't tell the public that, because they want to think you eat all the time. And that's what those food shows are doing. Is they're fooling I don't want to say it because it won't come out, correct? The unhealthy America to keep watching.
Well, because it's keep buying, it's keep purchasing, keep spending money, keep the machine running.
When in reality, by the way, that's just because our food system is set up to sell us poor quality food.
It's consumer,
They can make money selling healthy food.
Right.
Other countries subsidize farmers for grass-fed cows, and so their meat quality is way higher.
Right.
America doesn't do that, and if I think what we're doing, and kind of what Chef Evans and sort of this whole movement is doing, is trying to show American companies like, hey, there's a market for this, and we can make money, and we can feed people, and we can do it in a healthy way.
Right.
You know, I've said this before on this podcast, but I really worry that the food system is so like locked into the way it is that it's poisoning Americans, and that it's going to take doctors like myself, chefs, movie makers, scientists to step up and say, you can't poison us anymore.
Right.
You have to, and we can vote with our pocketbooks, right? Like we can, I tell all my patients, buy Kerrygold butter. It's grass fed. It's comparably priced.
I say that all the time.
Support Ireland, and eventually the American companies are going to make a comparable product.
Well, it's happening.
You do that too, right?
I say it all the time. Why? They ask me why European butters, because now
European
I'm taking side with European butter. And I
that.
say, because it has more fat content, it has more flavor. You will end up using less butter if you use the European butter. The color is different, the fat content.
The color is different because of the quality of the fat.
Exactly. I mean,
there's a change already starting. You could see with Heinz buying Primal Kitchen, with avocado oil based mayos going into Costco. These are the footsteps towards that. Even America making the change. It's not lost on us that this thing is irreversible. I think it's still feasible. It's going to take time.
Absolutely.
And
again,
messaging.
I think one of our goals too is, and I'm just going to keep sharing our goals because I think they're so important, is, there's other movements like, again, Chef Evans really pushes the paleo. He has a show called Paleo Way. And while I love the concept, I want to help Americans eat every day. I want to give them practical advice.
Right.
So, and that's what I feel like your show does. When I watch your show, I'm a huge fan.
Right.
Like ever since we met, I'm just like on there, because I'm always messaging you. But I love it because I like practical cooking. For me, when you're spending 3 hours, 4 hours doing something, it's like not a lot of people can do that. When I watch you cook, it's real time, real cooking, real advice, real evidence.
Right.
Like I'm watching and I'm learning in real time, and I can walk away that day with something that's usable. And I think that that's our biggest goal with Sapien Diet, is giving people tools, not just you have to do this, but giving people tools that are practical. So you can eat dairy. We're not just going to say no.
Absolutely.
There's no dairy. There was no dairy 5,000 years ago. No dairy. No, it's not. It's more complicated. We're in America in 2019.
Right. Exactly. I mean, I run into these people. Well, do you have gluten-free this? And do you have celiac disease?
Yeah.
No, because it's a trend. It's a trend.
Yeah.
Gluten-free has become, why gluten-free? I mean, brown rice as opposed to white rice, as opposed to wheat flour. Of course, if it hurts your body, then change it. But is it a fad or is it healthier?
Right.
They're doing
This is it.
Dairy-free.
Is it a fad or is it healthier?
Right.
Yeah.
That is the question.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's
There's a lot of
question.
fads, and we're in Los Angeles where we see them all
all the time.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, because I'm less of a cook.
He's not a cook.
I'm not.
I cook all.
He made a frittata for me.
No, me and his fiance made the frittata. We killed it.
Yeah.
I'm so good.
No,
Healthy.
she cooks great. He's a hell of a cook, and I'm just learning the
Chicken sausage, broccoli,
Yum.
chicken
Broccolini.
sausage, broccolini, sauteed with mushrooms, sauteed, poured in the egg,
bacon,
half cooked it.
Good
then,
for you.
Then I took
Look at
then I
you.
took the pancetta and the brie, and we tattered it in so it kind of goes in, and then we finished cooking it so it all became this magical.
Did you
oh
put
my
it
God.
in the oven?
Oh, it was all in oven.
Oh,
cooked
good,
it cast
good.
iron skillet, all in the oven. It
That
came
was
out
amazing.
all crispy and delicious.
And by the way, quick, 40 minutes. We heard that.
We were having wine while we were hanging out, which was our only carb consumed, coincidentally.
I love that.
But it contains resveratrol, which is an anti-aging molecule. So little carb, a little resveratrol when someone's
and you're young.
Yeah.
But we still try.
We still try. So look, the goal isn't, the goal is anti-aging. Like in America, we can keep people alive. My goal is to keep people alive as long as possible with the highest quality of life, right?
And you want them to be healthy and happy and, be able to be active and healthy and happy and like yourself. Just if you look in the mirror, are you happy or are you depressed and you're going to go eat some more donuts?
Yeah.
You make such a good point there, because we in LA, and you probably feel the heat too in your community, is like we get negative publicity around the country, or in my opinion, from around other people about our obsession, if you will, with aesthetics, with looks.
All the time.
And I just try to explain to people, if you look good, you feel good.
Right.
Everyone who has ever come to my clinic and lost a little weight and looked a little better, felt better, and I can sense their mood was better, and then their life gets better.
Right.
So this vilification, if that's a word, vilifying of wanting to look good or aesthetics or like looking skinny, like you were saying, like, oh, you have to be a fat chef because then no, it's this negative association we have with a focus on aesthetics. And the reality is most people that are skinny are working on it. They're exercising, they're eating right, they're putting energy. And as a result, they feel better. They look better. Yeah. Their numbers are often better. They're not having as many chronic medical diseases, right? That's why BMI and obesity are such a big factor in my medical care.
Yeah.
And so another thing I'm really trying to emphasize with my messaging is like, come on, like, don't be upset with people that look good. They're working hard to look good so they can feel good.
Yeah.
Well, you know what?
Join the party.
Oh, she doesn't eat anything. And I used to hear that a lot when I first got married. Because it was, oh, she doesn't eat anything. Oh my God, you look so great. And people would say, oh, she doesn't eat anything. Like, brush her off. And at some point,
it's minimizing you.
Why don't you try it?
Right.
It's not easy not eating whatever's in front of you.
It's called discipline.
Right.
So why don't you guys try it instead of judging me like I'm some crazy person that doesn't eat everything that's in front of me and on the table.
It's judgmental.
Try that. Complete judgmental, and people just...
I think that's what inspired me when I first met you, is that it's this connection of like beautiful, indulgent, fun cooking with a focus on health.
Right.
And
you can eat everything.
You can eat it. It's all connected.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Another thing we and Brian always talk about, by intermittent fasting and portion control, you get to liberalize what you're eating. By overall balancing your carb consumption and teaching your body to burn fat, you can become metabolically flexible and burn carbs when it's time to burn carbs. Oh, and by the way, if you're generally following a healthy diet, cheat and enjoy your life.
Of course.
Like it's Sunday, Friday night, go and have a good time. Like chill out.
Yeah.
So I do think there's a little bit of like, you're either not healthy eating or you're like healthy eating and it's obsessive. And like, it's about a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
And on average, eating good food. Like you could still have pizza and enjoy yourself and have your delicious cakes. By the way, I don't know if you saw her like multi-layered.
The
oh my god!
Over.
Those cakes, over. But I don't know. Like to me, that's something that's very similar with the way you present, or similar to what I'm trying to do, but also different than other chefs. Is the way you present the cooking is very raw and natural, while also focusing on that health and not being apologetic for fasting.
Well, because I think it also, what America does is we call it a diet. We're always trying to find a diet. And I've never been on a diet. I've always just had my system.
Yeah.
And if we change, you should change that. You should make it a lifestyle, not a diet.
We hate the word diet.
Everybody hates the word diet. So when you label diet on it, what happens is, okay, I'm going to diet till I reach my goal and then I can explode again.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I always go, wait, why are we doing that? Yeah. Why not just reach our goal and continue what we're doing and cheat one meal a week?
Yeah.
Yes.
2 meals a week, not 2 days.
You just made a very excited Brian Sanders in the back over here.
Listen, I say this to my daughter all the time, because I have a 10-year-old who's growing in this world, in this culture. She goes to school and she comes home and she's angry because I don't send her to school with Lunchable.
Yeah.
She's like, why am I the only girl at lunch and I don't have Lunchables,
Because she's
Mom?
looking around her and she wants to be like everybody else.
Yeah.
And she cries because she's like, they make fun of me.
That's not fair.
And then she'll come home and she'll say, and then I say, what is happening with you? You're not looking right. And she's like, well, they're eating my fruit and they're giving me their chips and cookies.
Oh, God.
That's what's happening.
That's
I
backwards.
swear to God.
yeah.
So I
gross.
scream at her and I
Yeah,
said to her, I'm
so
going to
gross.
homeschool you. If it means yes, because she
They're
doesn't,
jealous, is
she
what it
doesn't
is.
know how to
'cause
say no to
yeah,
them.
Well, yeah.
It's peer pressure.
So
Oh, I stepped back in. Because I wanted to ask you something. I love you said that you have your system. And I really like to know what people's systems are because some people are just naturally healthy and skinny, but they have a way. It's not like
no one is naturally.
they have a system. That's what I'm
Integral.
saying. Like I have a friend who supposedly eats whatever he wants, but I'm like, no,
you don't.
he's eating smaller portions and he's working out a lot.
Right.
That's his system.
Right.
So what is your system?
So
describe
my
it.
system is I eat everything that I want. I don't deprive myself of anything because the minute I think I'm carb free, I'm going to want it
right.
subconsciously.
Psychologically.
So
Yeah.
what happens
point.
is in the morning I wake up and even if I feel the stomach acid that wants to have a piece of bread and cream cheese, I say, no, that's not hunger. That's just my stomach acid working early in the morning. I'm going to continue with my lemon and water. Keep it calm with the warm water. It works best. Right now that it's really hot, I don't have more than 1 cup of warm water or honey. I start putting ice in it.
Nice.
And then I'm in the back with the chickens. I'm wasting my time. I'm passing my time being in the back with the chickens, being involved in nature, walking around, doing my thing. I do have my salads. There are days that I crave salads. There are days that I just crave sushi and I'll go and have sushi. If I crave pizza, I'll have a slice of pizza. I really will. I won't eat the entire pizza, which is what people do.
We're good. Just stay.
You know?
Okay. Well, one thing I think that to just connect it with our diet is I think when you're fasting frequently, which is what you're doing, and you're generally eating a healthy diet, you become metabolically flexible. And this is a concept that is very misunderstood. In fact, I brought it up to a number of doctors I met with this week, and they're like, what? Because they don't really think about it that way. But if you're regularly burning fat,
Right.
your body can burn carbs.
Right.
It's not a problem to burn
Exactly.
carbs, right? But if you're not regularly burning fat, it forgets. It doesn't do it well, and you start gaining weight.
And you're carb dependent.
And you become carb dependent.
And the more carbs you eat, the more your body wants it.
It's
Because
like a drug.
It is a drug. It's the sugar that sits in your belly. And then it depresses you because now you're on a downer and then you crave more sugar carb to lift yourself up. And then you're piling it all on top of the other.
And that all happens because of a number of hormones that get dysregulated.
Right.
And everyone talks about insulin because everyone knows insulin and diabetes, but it's more complicated than that. You know, you could listen to some of the podcasts on Peak Human, but we talk about a number of hormones, ghrelin, leptin, all these different hormones that are involved in controlling your satiety, controlling how much calories your body retains, controlling your set point of body fat composition. And I think that it's this frequency of carbs, right? So like you said, yeah, I can eat a pizza. I can go have some sushi. It's because you're not hitting your body with those carbs all the time. You figured out that if I wake up and I give myself sugar, it screws me up. So you know what? Even though it's a fresh fruit, I'm going to skip the sugar. I'm going to eat something healthy like nuts, like healthy protein and fat. You kind of instinctually find that because you're thoughtful and you're paying attention, and you have, I think, the food culture. Our foreign history really is a great anchor point. And I worry that in America, we've been fed so many lies, and we've been trained to eat so much that the concept of backing off is almost scary to people. It's horrifying. And so I really feel like I always say, you know, once you figure out whole foods, once you figure out healthy fat, the number one most important thing you could ever do for your health, live longer, feel better, better brain health, better metabolic state, is fasting. Or, in other words, not eating so damn much.
Can I just say something? I absolutely love you right now.
When Gary gets fired up, he gets fired up.
Let me tell you something. Because if my sister was here, here's the misconception everybody has. You have to eat.
Yeah. My grandma.
No, you don't.
You're so
Have
skinny.
you eaten? Have you eaten?
Oh my God.
So we were away this past summer in Greece, and I got sick. I got poisoned. Food poisoning.
Right.
I slept at night, woke up in the middle of the night, death was knocking on my
it's the
door.
worst.
I was going to die. It was so bad that in the morning when I woke up, it was so bad. I thought, I don't want to see anything but bring me some water and lemon. And that's what kick-started this thing. For 3 days, no joke, I consumed maybe total 300 calories because I was so scared of that pain.
Right.
I really thought I was going to die.
Yeah.
And I thought I am not, and I lost so much, not weight because I'm not heavy to begin with, but it was all this reserve that was sitting there.
Yeah.
Also, there was so much junk in my gut
For sure.
that was just being cleaned out.
Built up.
And I came back and I went, why is it you wake up and you think I need to eat because I gotta go?
Yeah.
You don't need to eat because you gotta go. You will go.
Oh, to poop. Gotcha.
No.
Oh, just
to
move.
go,
Just to
to
go.
move.
You
Energy.
need food energy.
You
Gotcha.
don't need to eat to
Yeah, I
have
got you, I
energy.
got you, I got you.
It's there already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing I
There
tell
already. There's so much of it.
There's so much in your gut.
You could go for a lot longer than 3 days.
I know that, but people think they need to.
Right,
Well,
it's
what
a
do you mean? I
psychological
have
thing.
to eat.
Yeah.
It's morning. I gotta
Well,
go to work.
Yeah, and everybody around you is pushing shut. in their
By the
mouth,
way,
so-
we also say this in medicine, like when people ask, there's this question, but we say you can go minutes without air, days without water, weeks without food.
yeah,
We know that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what's this? Breakfast is the most important meal of the day nonsense.
And there's an important reset
It
that
isn't
happens
for me.
when you do that, when you flush it out, when you 72-hour fast has been known to do a
Oh my God,
nice
it's the best thing ever.
full reset.
Also, you even if you're not a person who fasts, and even if you're carb dependent, at a 72-hour fast, you're definitely in ketosis.
Right.
And the benefits of ketosis, again, you could learn about it in our other platforms, are overwhelming. There's an overwhelming amount of evidence that suggests that ketone bodies do most of the anti-inflammatory, most of the metabolic management, helps cellular recovery, helps stabilize our hormones, and people are still confused about this. Like, they still don't understand what a ketone is, and that's really concerning to me because it's something that high school students should understand, that there's glucose and there's ketones.
Yeah.
That should be a basic
Our education system
concept.
It's
lacking that.
such a great point you just brought up because I have my 9th grader and all his life I've been telling him sugar package, sugar package, sugar package. And he says to me this past semester in his health class.
What grade?
9th grade.
9th grade.
He says, oh my God, Mom, you should have seen all the kids in health class. All of a sudden they're all like, what? We shouldn't be eating this. We shouldn't be eating that. We shouldn't be. Nobody knows. By the time you're in 9th grade, you're 14, 15 years old, you're already ruined. If at home,
Your food pyramid is upside down already.
if at home you haven't been taught the proper
Right.
diet or way of living. And he says to me, I'm sitting there laughing because these kids, the girls that are teenagers, are going, wait, so I shouldn't be drinking Coke every day
Yeah.
with every meal? You know, don't buy sodas. Don't.
And
I
we
don't
have-
have sodas at home. People come, their friends come over. Do you have juice? No. What do you have to drink? Milk and water.
They're just like, no. And, this brings up a little bit of a sensitive subject to me. I've had a number of patients. My most challenging patient population right now for me, I'm a 35-year-old doctor, is young girls like 16 to 25. They come to me with weight issues, with self-image, even if not a weight issue, like a self-image issue. They're very confused about how to eat.
Right.
They're either not exercising because they're ashamed, or they're exercising way too much because they're freaked out. And I have a hard time approaching them because I think my approach is, hey, I want to help you with your mood. I want to help you with how you feel about your body. Let me teach you how to eat. And they literally start crying. And I'm still figuring out the best approach, but it's like, we have an epidemic of these young girls, right? Suicide rates, depression rates in these young girls are horrifying. Obviously, the big thing that everyone talks about is social media and its effect on their mind and stuff. Well, one way to to battle that epidemic is to help them be more healthy.
Absolutely.
Help them not be in a constant state of brain fog from their insulin levels, and and honestly help them physically feel better because they'll look better, right? Yeah. So I try to teach them food, and they start crying, and they can't even broach the conversation. And so I'm really passionate about sharing it with like your community. Sharing these ideas with your community of people, because I think that they have the most to benefit.
Yeah.
A lot of my patients that are in their 40s and 50s and 60s, they've lived their lives. They have their sort of set ways. It's really hard to move the dial on them. Yeah. But these young people, they can really change. And if they hear what we have to say, we can change their lives. So that's one of the reasons why I want to really expand our audience is like, hey, you can feel better, and you don't need an antidepressant that turns off your libido and makes you numb. Yeah, you just need to eat, not shit. Like, not even that good, but like not shit. Not shit.
That age demographic you mentioned of 17 to 27 is actually like right on the money. That is the most sort of valuable target. You're gonna change people's lives who are then gonna grow to be adults and then
change their kids' lives.
So it's a nice trickle effect.
Well, I get that a lot. Hopefully, what I get a lot of is now these parents that have the same age group kids as me tune in and they say, wow, you brought us back to life. Now we want to get back in the kitchen and actually do good. Because I say to them, well, Nicholas doesn't eat onions. Do you know what I do? I don't stop putting it in the food. Right. What I'll do is I'll blend it and get it really mushed up, and then he won't know he's eating even know it. Yeah. And then his palate gets used to it.
Yes.
And then when I bring it in, he's like, "Oh, Mom, I ate the onion." Dude, you've been eating it since day one. You just didn't know. I love it. I still do.
It's such a good trick to change their palates.
I made chicken tenders for the Kardashians, one of their family dinners. She said chicken tenders, and Courtney loves to be very healthy with the kids, and she said her son is gluten-free. And I said, okay, I'm going to make chicken tenders, but I'm going to make it like I do at home with oat. And I grind my own oat really, really fine.
Wow, I have to try this.
Oh my God.
That sounds amazing. I've never had that.
And guess why I made it? For Nicholas. I wouldn't tell him. It's oat. Right. And he was like, Mom, that is the best chicken. And after 5 times of him consuming, 10 pieces of really yummy chicken tenders at home, I say to him, that's oat. And he's like, really? He can't argue anymore. So I do the same thing with the carrot cake that I make. I make it with oat and almond. I don't tell him.
It's amazing.
He eats it
this
up.
Is what we need to share with people. We need to get this stuff out.
And I put it out there, and it's like, try it. Just trust me. And they do. They try. They write me. They're like, oh my God, my kids loved it. You rocked it.
Amazing.
They do. It's something so
empowering.
Simple.
It's also empowering. I think we've diluted our food culture to the point where people don't even cook anymore.
Not at all.
They've really lost
Postmates.
Postmates. I've seen the billboards all over the town, and it's just like for me, cooking is an art. Like, I love cooking. I come home, it's like my meditation. It decompresses me from all the stress of work.
Right.
I'm in the moment. That's what they say, right? When you're cooking, you're in the moment. Right. It's like right now. Right. You gotta act on what's happening in front of you, and I think that's like an outlet. At least for me, it's always been an outlet, and people need outlets these days. You can't just stare at your iPhone and hope for the best, right? You need to do stuff. And I think that's really important to...
Do you know, based on your culture, if you were to look back, I'm older than both of you, so I can say this. If you were to look back when you were 12, 8, you remember your family was in the kitchen.
Oh yeah. Oh my God.
Oh, I learned. I grew up cooking with my dad.
And we didn't have TVs. Well, we did, but it wasn't in our hand like this.
Right. Well, it was Married with Children playing on my little 13-inch in the corner.
Okay, you don't need to tell me how young you are. But
only after dinner could you go sit and watch anything. Dinner was first.
And I tell my boys that you get in the kitchen and everybody's in the kitchen. I remember my mom was making these difficult meals that would take 4 or 5 hours, and she'd say to me, why don't you make the spaghetti and meat sauce or meatballs? And I had a job to do. Here, everything's regulated.
Yeah.
Is your 10-year-old in the kitchen? Is your kitchen safe? Can she touch a knife?
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
the water
yeah.
hot? Can they? And I was in the kitchen at 8 years old
Right.
cooking.
Yeah.
I was cooking.
Right.
And that's where the passion is. You know, when my daughter, my son, Darius was 7 years old making himself breakfast.
Yeah.
In the morning, not having cereal and milk, but literally making himself sunny side up eggs.
Right.
I love it.
Because
That's
I
just good
trusted him he
parenting.
could, you
That's
know?
good parenting.
And
is
if you
what's
burn,
part of
guess
that.
what? You won't burn again.
That's
So
how
be
you took the
careful.
words out of my mouth. I was going to
Yeah.
say a hot thing is
Yeah.
that's how you learn.
Yeah.
By protecting your kids to the point where they don't get any exposure to real life,
Right.
they don't know how to be a real person.
That's true.
I think getting in the kitchen is good for the entire family, not just for health. It's mentally good. It brings the family together.
Yeah.
It helps you cook. I'm going to make this. You chop that. If the onions...
Also, hand-eye coordination. I mean, even subtle
Absolutely.
things when you have a little kid that's never grabbed a knife before,
Right.
and then they're like clumsy. You know,
And
you
guess
need to
what?
practice.
If they cut their finger, you're not going to give them a bone knife that's going to chop their hand off.
Right,
you know, if you get a little, it's okay. We'll put a Band-Aid on it. Relax. You know, I burn all the time.
Yeah.
As I say, shit happens. It's okay.
Shit happens. You get up and you move on.
I think Brian had a question, something to
I
say.
had one thing. No, just give me 1 second because I want to go back to what you said because I love that. Is
I like it
your
when Brian's
strategy.
excited. He's just like,
Well, no, I'm excited about people's strategies and I'm excited about satiety. It's like I think about this stuff a lot. And then, so it sounds like your strategy was about listening to when you're actually hungry compared to it's something else. It's
Right.
emotional.
Oh, yeah.
It's something, you know what I mean? People don't do that.
Noticing
I
the
think it's
acid.
huge. Am I actually hungry or is this because I'm bored? Is this because my stomach's grumbling? Like, what is it?
I think it's 90%. I don't know the exact numbers, but I really, really see it at home.
Right.
And with people around me that they answer to the acid thinking it's hunger. When that grumbly goes, I tell my daughter this, she performs all the time. I say, is it butterflies? Like when you're going on stage, you're nervous?
Right.
Or is it hunger where you think you're
Right.
going to faint?
Right.
It's different.
Right.
If it's
two
acid,
different feelings.
just calm it. Just go in
That's a
there
great-
with lemon.
and not just that, you wake up dehydrated. So
Absolutely.
what you're describing
Right.
is a citric acid to help with your GI system, which is fine.
Right.
But also hydration, right?
Right.
Most people wake up and they're sucking on coffee, orange juice, and cereal. None of which is hydrating, right?
Right.
When you make that the
Lemon
water, you're hydrating yourself. You're replacing, and so a lot of people, not just acid, but they will confuse thirst for hunger.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
it's super common.
Right.
And people are chronically dehydrated. And then we're told salt is bad, so when they drink the water, they have a hard time absorbing the water
Oh,
because
I
they
did
haven't
my
consumed
show
any
today.
salt.
Did you listen?
I was busy.
You were busy with patients. You skipped me.
I think I saw when it popped on, and I was like running
I
around.
was raving about you and the salt because I consume the other thing with my
Thank
gut
you.
health is fermented food.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Huge.
Just got another 3 guys excited again.
So I'm always like in the refrigerator eating my pickles, and I grew up like that.
Yeah.
Pickles were big part of our food. We have those sour pickles the Persians have
Yes.
all
Oh
the
my
time.
God.
So we're always having it. And I was talking about that today. Last night I was talking to my mom. She said, I'm so thirsty all the time. And I said, you need to put some salt and lemon in your water.
Yeah.
Because she's consuming all this water all day long. She's 88 years old, bless her. And she says, all night I have to pee. I said, put some salt and lemon in your water and you'll be better.
Yeah.
Thanks to
I'm
you with
rolling
the
my
salt
eye-
thing.
and it helped?
Yeah.
I'm rolling my eyes because you cannot imagine how many old people in this country
You've
are
told me,
struggling
right.
because they are constantly dehydrated and they're told you have high blood pressure, you don't eat salt. They're constantly, it's running right through them.
Right.
Then they get swollen, they're put on Lasix, which wastes salt. It's just, and then the doctors, they're not seeing this pattern of like, you've limited salt to the point that these people are depleted.
So what's the problem? Are the doctors uneducated?
Yes. They don't have this background in
Why?
medical school. They
There's-
don't teach them about nutrition.
That's one. And
That's
then there's
terrible.
misunderstandings about key parts of nutrition. So there's misunderstandings about salt based on poor research and poor updates to what we know. There's misunderstandings about fiber. There's misunderstandings about metabolism, period. So one of the biggest misconceptions me and Brian are always trying to educate people on is salt's not bad for you. There's some disease processes like chronic kidney disease and heart failure where, it's a problem. Your body just can't process it. But to say that high blood pressure is caused by salt, which a lot of doctors think, is just not right. And actually the evidence is not consistent with that. And the evidence that they anchored themselves on many years ago is old, and it was not very reproducible, or I should say, you can't extrapolate it to the general public. And the problem is become this, they try to do this blanket statement of, low salt, low fat. It's like this general. And what happens is people get older, they get these chronic medical conditions. And instead of being thoughtful about, hey, you're 90 and the water's running right through you, we should liberalize your salt intake, they don't change their recommendation. They continue to use medicines, which is how we're taught to use medicines. And what happens is they end up dehydrated in the emergency room. And in the emergency room, they get normal saline, which is salt water. And there's a huge disconnect between what we're recommending in our outpatient practices and what we're doing in the hospital.
Why not bring it together?
It's like a lot of it has to do with the subspecialization of physicians. There's very few doctors like myself that practice inpatient and outpatient. I bring this up on our podcast a lot because it actually is a differentiator. And it used to be that all doctors had an inpatient and outpatient practice. So they had this perspective of like, what am I doing in the outpatient setting? How is it affecting inpatient? What am I doing in the inpatient, and vice versa? And so what I see is a huge disconnect. People come into the hospital, they get normal saline. Sometimes they even get salt tabs. They feel better. And then they're discharged on a low salt, low fat diet. Like I've seen the discharge paperwork and I'm like,
so why,
because nutrition is a bottom barrel. Because it's meds, it's drugs, it's billing,
pharmaceutical
it's
companies.
blah, 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 blah.
And those meds sometimes further dry you out, don't they? Further dehydrate
Well, that's
you?
what I'm saying, the Lasix. So they'll give old people, anyway, for like lower extremity swelling, people will give Lasix when it has nothing to do. It has to do with like your venous insufficiency. Or I know I'm getting a little technical here, but I'm saying like there's a lot more thought that goes into volume, fluid status, and food and nutrition. And most of my colleagues are not there. We're certainly not trained, which we talked about a lot, but also the incentive is not there to optimize a nutritional standpoint. And they lean on dietitians and nutritionists, which I believe are not appropriately educated in America. Their education is decades old, and it's hard to re-educate professionals. And that's where I think we're really struggling. So these little simple things like that cocktail, or hey, you're constipated, let's stop the fiber. Subtle little things can change people's lives. I mean, I've literally made those 2 recommendations to old people, and they're like, I'm pooping and I'm not peeing all night and I feel better,
So constipated, stop the fiber?
Stop the fiber.
So eat what?
Less fiber and more hydration. So fiber, and I won't get too detailed, but the concept of a high fiber diet being somehow good for us was generated by this guy, Dennis Burkitt. He did an observation many, many decades ago. He went to a different country where it's a different population, different genetics, different food system. Noticed they were eating a lot more fiber, had healthy guts and colons, made the extrapolation like, hey, more fiber, everyone will do better. Great. Everyone picked up those recommendations because he was a genius and made a lot of very great observations and recommendations, including like lymphoma diagnoses, a bunch of stuff. But anyway, they hung on to it. Subsequently, we've made the research, lots of research to support that it does not decrease the risk of colon cancer or precancerous polyps. In fact, it increases bloating, constipation, and diverticular disease because it's too much bulk. Because you're filling the colon. Imagine the colon is like this like hose, or sometimes they use a tire as an example, and it's constantly moving the food through. If you fill this thing up with so much fiber, because all you're eating is salad and fiber and Metamucil for a lot of these old people, then this colon is pushing against it. The bacteria are making gas because that fiber makes gas. You're bloated and constipated.
Exerting it.
The recommendation to eat more fiber is not even anymore based on actual evidence because the evidence is against it. And yet it's so part of our dogma that people can't let it go. And I say this to them and they're like, huh. And that's it. Like it ends at huh. But then when I stop the Metamucil from the old people,
it works.
It works.
Interesting.
So simple. simple. It's low-hanging fruit, no pun intended, but these are simple educations that need to happen to the general public.
Yeah.
You know,
it's habits too. You're talking about like reforming people's habits.
But here's what I don't understand. Why I'm not a physician. I'm not a nutritionist. Why is it people don't have common sense is what I don't understand. And
well, it's conditioning.
You guys are going to wake up now with what I have to say. My whole other, Brian. So I say our body is a machine, right?
Yeah.
And so at my age, every decade, it gets slower.
Yeah.
Like a car.
Yeah.
Your car gets older, you drive it less because it's an antique.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
Or you got to maintain it more.
So I keep telling people, I think if I consume less, right, in a day, I'm giving it time for all my organs to catch up, to breathe, to relax, to do nothing.
Right.
To do nothing.
Not digest all the time.
So now I have all this whole thing that's happening with plant-based diet, and now I'm going to fill up this table with all this food, but it's plant-based and I can eat it. And still you have to digest that. You don't have to blend it and juice it and drink it. Why don't you just drink water? I seriously say that to people.
No, I love that.
Golf club.
I love that.
Right?
No, we nailed it.
Like, just relax your body a couple of days a week. Don't eat anything.
Yeah.
Just drink some more liquid. A good tea. Coffee is good for you. Change it up to some wine and then go to sleep.
You don't have to replace a diet with a juice, with like tons of juice. This is the other problem is it's
12
like,
gallons,
it's one thing or the other. It's like,
right.
I'm not consuming calories in food. I'm going to chug juice until I've diluted all the salt out of my body. We had a close friend of ours recently did a juice cleanse. Diluted out all the salt out of his body, ended up in the hospital vomiting and sick because you can't like just drink gallons of juice. It's like no one ever did. Where did we get juice? Like you need all sorts of complicated processes to make juice. Like we need to be, you said we're a machine. We're actually an animal. Like we are an animal.
Right.
And as soon as a very complicated animal, and as soon as we started being like manipulating with chemicals and fake shit, we lost our connection to that animal. And that's the answer to your common sense question is start teaching people that they're animals, that as an animal, you need to eat right, you need to hydrate, sex is healthy for you, be sex positive, let's move. If you don't move, your muscles break down, your bones break down. Let's let ourselves feel our emotions. If you don't feel your emotions, you get all screwed up. You're an animal.
Yep.
Treat yourself like one. That's my answer to the lack of common sense is we are pretending we're not what we are. We're pretending we're something else. And by doing so, you can't have common sense because what are we? Are we a robot? You're not a robot. You're an animal. You're a human. You're a Homo sapien. And so you should eat a species-specific diet and live a species-specific life, which includes healthy sleep, love, sun exposure, interaction with humans, exercise, mindfulness.
Great.
Fucking turn off your phones too, people.
Yeah.
He's fired up. All right. I'll calm down. I'm sorry.
I love it.
For the F-bomb. I didn't mean to use bad words.
No, that's fantastic. Guys, this was a great conversation. We're pretty much run out of time here. But thank you so much, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah.
Jumping into the jungle with
us. Oh my God.
I love it.
I loved it. That was awesome.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thanks for listening. See you next time.